This is the Oregon Football Report. I am your host, Will Ortner, and it is finally official. Quarterback Will Mencl is a 5-star quarterback. He's one of the newly minted 5-star players, according to Rivals. They just released their most updated version of their top 300, and Mencl was the highest riser in this last updated edition. When we look at the top 5 players, Jalen Brewster, someone we've talked about here on the channel, he's sitting there at number 1. John Meredith sitting there at number 2, a Fort Worth, Texas kid. And Mark Matthews, offensive lineman, he's down in Florida. Will Mencl goes from unranked all the way to number 4. And then Easton Royal, the Texas commit, is wide receiver number 1, but also player number 5. Why is this good news for the Oregon Ducks? Well, we're going to tell you about that here in just one moment. But before we do, someone has got to join the Oregon drinking team. We just established it. Look at how sweet this green t-shirt is. Super fresh, super fly. We've also got the black. If you, you put on a couple of LBs, maybe you want something a little bit slimmer. Can you tell I'm wearing my black hoodie right now? $29.99, super affordable, easy to go up and grab. It is going to be the perfect t-shirt for your St. Patrick's Day shenanigans. All you got to do, you go in the comment section, click the link that's going to be in there, as well as the description of today's video. It's going to take you to where you need to go so you can go pick up your t-shirt today. The Oregon Ducks are currently the front runners for Will Mencl, and this is a big deal because it means the Ducks came in, they identified the talent that Mencl had early on, and they made sure they created a good relationship with him. They helped get themselves their foot into the door so they would have an opportunity to go get a kid of the caliber of Mencl. And now a lot of the other big-time programs are scrambling to get into the mix. When we look at the top 4 schools for Mencl, it goes Oregon, who multiple different college football recruiting experts have actually said that Mencl is predicted to go and commit there. The Auburn Tigers, Miami Hurricanes, and Penn State Nittany Lions kind of rounding out that crew. So not only are the Ducks number 1 for Mencl, the fastest rising player, not just quarterback, but player in the 2027 recruiting class, but more importantly, the Oregon Ducks, they keep getting predicted as landing his commitment. That is a huge deal. If you want the Ducks to land Will Mencl, you're a little bit stitious like me. Not superstitious, just a little stitious. Go in and hit the thumbs up button on today's video. The more likes that we get, maybe the more likely it is that Will Mencl ends up committing to the University of Oregon. Can't guarantee it, but I don't know. It makes me feel a little bit better, so maybe it'll make you feel a little bit better. Why must the Oregon Ducks sign Will Mencl? Well, because he is a superb athlete. We're going to go through all the different reasons why I think Mencl should be an Oregon Duck, but I think the most important reason is always going to be what type of player he is, because let's all admit it right now, this is big-time college football. You aren't just giving out scholarships and NIL money because someone is, well, a nice person. Over 3,800 yards, 33 passing touchdowns, limited interception numbers, and what's even more important for Mencl is that while he was a quarterback, he was using his legs too. Had another 741 yards on the ground, and most importantly, he actually added 17 more touchdowns, so he ended up having 50 touchdowns in just his junior year. When we look at the biggest risers from this 2027 cycle, number 1 all the way there at the top is Will Mencl. And so he is clearly someone that is growing into his body. He's clearly someone that is growing into the athleticism that has been around him. He is a player that is relentless and is grinding and is working and earning an opportunity to be one of the best players in this high school recruiting cycle. That isn't something that always happens. So to me, when I look at a kid like this that's willing to put in the work and he has clearly created himself into being a great quarterback, the Oregon Ducks have to find a way to sign him. What does Dan Lanning talk about all the time? He wants competitive players. He wants players that go out and compete day after day after day. So if I'm the Oregon Ducks, I want to make sure that I go and find a kid like Will Mencl. In fact, I want Will Mencl explicitly to be my quarterback. I want Will Mencl to commit to the University of Oregon because I believe that he will end up being one of the top players in this class. In my personal opinion, I don't think it will be shocking if when the dust has finally settled. We talk about Will Mencl as being the number one player, not just quarterback, in this recruiting cycle. Will Mencl play for the Oregon Ducks in 2027? Yes or no? Let me know down below in the comment section. I think there's a lot of different ways that this could go, but I'll tell you right now, I believe that Will Mencl will end up being an Oregon Duck. Next reason why the Ducks need to make sure that they go out and get the commitment of Will Mencl is because he's a really smart kid. What do I mean by that? He's the type of quarterback, from all the different stories that we have heard, that he goes out and he memorizes the plays. He uses his intellect to find weaknesses in the defense, and he uses his intellect to go out and attack opposing defenses. Here's what his dad told On 3 about the memory of one Will Mencl. He's almost got a photographic memory. He can recap things he's seen once from a long time ago, and he loves to prove me wrong all the time while doing it. Plays and coverages, once he gets it, it seems like he's got it forever. I love a genius quarterback. I know that everyone kind of looks at the photographic memory and genius QB, and they point to a guy like Josh Rosen, who wasn't all that good, but I will say this, he was okay enough in college football to make sure that he ended up being a top 10 pick in the NFL draft. But more importantly, I want a quarterback that can look at a defense and just go, oh, here's how I can attack it. My coach told me I need to do this, this, and that, and I'll make sure to be able to beat it. Will Mencl clearly seems to be building towards that. The other thing that's important with Mencl is that when you have a quarterback that wants to work, but also wants to learn, which he clearly does, coming from the quote from his father, it is important to note that he is going to be able to use that intellect to get himself onto the field quicker. He's the type of kid, the type of quarterback that would not be deterred by seeing something that he hasn't necessarily seen a lot of because, well, he just needs to see it once or twice and then he ends up getting it. Make sure that you share this video on social media. Help us grow the Oregon Football Report. But more importantly, help let everyone know that the Ducks are closing in on having one of the best quarterbacks in the 2027 class. In fact, right now, the best quarterback in the 2027 class. Let everyone know that he is going to commit to the Ducks. The last thing that we need to talk about here is the Ducks are doing a great job of stacking great QBs. But the Ducks have also done a great job of so far understanding where their flaws are and going and attacking those flaws in the transfer portal. What do I mean by that? When we look at the current Ducks quarterback roster, you can tell Dante Moore, Dylan Raiola, these are two guys that were at other schools that ended up coming to the Ducks in the transfer portal. And Dan Lanning has done a great job of recruiting those quarterbacks to come in. But that also tells me that the Ducks in the Dan Lanning era have not done a great job of landing a high school commit to stay. Some of that can be because of the other talent that the Ducks already have, but some of that can also be because, well, they thought that a player like potentially, well, I'm not going to name names, but they thought that a player could potentially come in and be better than they were, and then they didn't end up being that. Now, the jury's still out on a kid like Akili Smith Jr., very high 4-star athlete. He could just end up take some time right now, kind of building on what he's learning in the system. He can continue to build on becoming a great quarterback for the Ducks in the future. But what I say is that right now, the Oregon Ducks are doing a great job of building their QBs for the future because you can never have too many of them. But it also does feel like if the Ducks were able to land Mencl, well, now you have Akili Smith Jr. going toe-to-toe with Will Mencl. And they are going to be able to push each other as they vie for different positions on this team, whether that's being QB2 behind Dylan Raiola or even potentially, depending on how Mencl hits the ground running and how well Akili Smith Jr. does in summer ball and spring ball this year, maybe that's potentially earning that number 2 position under Dante Moore ahead of Dylan Raiola. Maybe that's potentially beating out Dylan Raiola next year to be the starting quarterback for the Oregon football team. You can never have too many good QBs because we've all seen what happens when a guy like Dennis Dixon goes down and then you have to go out and put in Brady Leaf. It just doesn't end up being, well, quite as talented. The plays aren't quite as good. The offense doesn't hum the way that it needs to. The quarterback position is such a big deal in college football, especially because there can be such a drastic drop-off from QB1 to QB2. So it's always going to be a positive idea for the Oregon Ducks to go out and get as many good quarterbacks as they possibly can. So to me, the fact that the number one quarterback in the 2027 class is highly linked to the Oregon Ducks, dang, that's pretty dang good news for the Oregon football team. Make sure that you like this video if you like good news surrounding the Oregon Ducks. The Ducks, they're linked and are already predicted to get Will Mencl, and he's now jumped up to being the number 4 player in the 2027 class. If you don't think that's good news, I don't know what to tell you. Make sure that you hit that sub button after you hit that thumbs up button if you haven't subbed already. We're closing in on getting to 3,500 subscribers. So help us out. Come on in, hit that sub button. We always really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for viewing today's video, and Sko Ducks!